Controversy rages on after Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes, and the Heritage Foundation's president came out in defense of Tucker and said, "Don't cancel Nick Fuentes." Now, there's a bunch of conservatives who are outraged over the appearance of Nick Fuentes in many more mainstream appearances because they have done everything in their power to marginalize and shut him out, as they do not like his opinions or the things he said in the past in general. My friends, is this what will destroy the rights coalition? Is this what will rout us and divide us before we have a chance to stomp out the woke left cult? Perhaps. Because this kind of stuff is extremely demoralizing. And if this is the direction that the conservative movement wants to go, you are going to fracture. And we're going to end up with 5 different factions in the coming political election. In the coming political conflicts, I guess. And I mean, with the midterms coming up, as well as protests. Because I would describe myself as, like, Israel ambivalent. But increasingly, on the left and the right, you are getting this adamant demand that you either reject and denounce Israel or support it outright. And my attitude is, what? All of these Israel first people, the only thing they care about is Israel. Israel. Jeez. Beam Dream. Hey, they help keep the lights on here. This is what we got to do, right? But I got to be honest, I'm a big fan of Beam Dream. When we first got sponsored, I said, okay, this looks interesting, right? I'll try it out. Tastes great. I tried one. I thought it was fantastic. You can go to shopbeam.com/Timcast and pick up your Beam Dream nighttime sleep aid. But let me tell you, after about a week of taking it every night, because it honestly just tasted good, my sleep improved dramatically. It's not an exaggeration. I got a sleep tracker. I'm usually hitting the 90s range now. I was in like the high 80s. Now I'm in like 95 consistently. I love it. So Beam Dream, it's got magnesium, it's got L-theanine, it's got melatonin. For me, I think the magnesium is really what I was lacking. Skate a lot, and so I would get cramps at night. It would affect my sleep. I've been sleeping like a rock. I'd say a baby, but you know, babies wake up screaming in the middle of the night. So go to shopbeam.com, shopbeam.com/Timcast. You can get up to 50% off. Check it out, Beam Dream. Thanks for sponsoring the segment. I think that the people who believe Israel is the greatest ally and the greatest threat are both Israel first, because I am ambivalent. It's another country. We give them aid. We give many countries aid. We should not be giving aid out to all these foreign countries. But here we are. This is the state of the modern right. Now, I will say this too, with much criticism to Tucker for seemingly being so focused on this. And I'm not saying he's not allowed to be. I'm saying it seems to be a growing disproportionate segment of the ideas being espoused by many individuals on the right. And my attitude is like, I'm sitting here over being like, we're trying to win a midterm here because they're trying to put weird books in schools for kids, and they're threatening to burn down buildings and riot. Antifa and Charlie Kirk's assassination, and there's a segment of the right that literally has just become enthralled by the subject of Israel, either for or against. Well, here's the latest story, and I do think this is particularly relevant, and I will add this to the story. We booked Nick Fuentes because, in all seriousness, in full transparency, the censorship on YouTube is pulled back a bit to where we feel it is now possible to actually have the guy on the show. We've had worse leftists on the show. I imagine we'll debate some of these issues. That's about it. But we got attacked, Timcast, I say we, by these conservatives who are like, no one should ever be allowed to have that conversation. And that's when I'm just like, y'all are retards. Okay, I'm just so over this. You cannot defend when I debate a leftist who wants child sex changes and be like, yeah, you get him, Tim. And then I'm like, oh, Nick's going to come on too. And no, don't do that. What? We bring anybody of political prominence or relevance to have these conversations. And they get, when we debate it. Yeah, but we can see where we're going. Well, Free Beacon ain't holding any punches. Yikes. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts said conservatives should not be canceling Nick Fuentes 27-year-old Hitler and Stalin supporter said Wednesday that Jews who can't get behind his worldview should get the F out of America and go to Israel. Okay, well, I don't watch Nick. I've seen a handful of his clips on domestic stuff because I don't care about the issue of Israel. I don't care about Israel. But I believe the context here was he's basically saying, you've got a lot of people in this country that are saying Israel's our greatest ally and we should be funding and supporting them. And more than that, right? There are people who are legitimately more supportive of Israel than the United States. And I believe what he was saying was, if you like Israel so much, why don't you marry it? You know, go there instead. Roberts made the remarks in a videotaped statement intended as a defense of Tucker Carlson, whom he described as a close friend. Carlson came under criticism this week for hosting Fuentes for a friendly 2-hour interview. Quote, I disagree with and even abhor things Nick Fuentes says, but canceling him is not the answer either. When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And he is correct. And that's why I, too, will defend Tucker Carlson. Tucker's famous. He has ideas that people want to hear, and you have no right to tell him what his opinions should be. So y'all can just F off. And I especially am not playing this game, where people are trying to threaten us or force us what to host or not host certain individuals. Bro, the last thing you want to do is try and make me do something. You know, I'm a lot like Charlie in this regard. That viral text where he was like, if you push me, I'll go the other way. When they were like, cancel Tucker, he says, okay, I'm putting Tucker on the main stage. You want to play games like that? You tell me not to have somebody, I'm going to have them faster than you can. You can say cancel. Now, I think Fuentes got a lot of quotes that are really bad. Fuentes delivered an anti-Semitic tirade in the wake of an interview describing Jewish commentators from Josh Hammer to Mark Levin and Laura Loomer as despicable pieces of ish who will never be American and should get the F out of America and go back to Israel. Well, I think the issue here that they're criticizing was his crass and crude attack. But if his point is, you know, and that's what I would say to Nick. I've said this to a lot of people who are very anti-Israel. If you approach it academically, you win, right? If Nick Fuentes said of Josh Hammer, Mark Levin, and Laura Loomer, if he said, I believe they care more about Israel than the United States, and if that is the case, perhaps they should go live in Israel and work to make Israel great. Point would be taken. But when you are derisive and insulting, you ice yourself out from the debate because, well, you're kind of a dick, bro. Kind of a dick move. I don't know that I agree. I mean, I would say this of Laura Loomer and Josh Hammer. They seem to be fine. I have no issues whatsoever. Mark Levin, he's okay, but man, the dude really slathers it on thick for Israel. And I'm sitting here being like, dude, I'll say it again. The Israel first people, and that means pro and anti, I am just, it is so cringe to me. Roberts did not address those remarks or any of Fuentes' other head-turning statements. He claimed Hitler had aura. He also has made statements to rejecting the Holocaust. We will always defend our friends against the slanders of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda, Roberts said, though he did not identify whose agenda Carlson's critics were allegedly serving. Carlson, he said, remains, and as I have said before, and will always be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. On Carlson's podcast, Fuentes decried the influence of organized Jewry and described himself as a fan of Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin, who reportedly canceled a person or two. Carlson pledged to circle back to that, but never did. Roberts also accused Carlson's critics of unduly focusing on the right rather than uniting against the left. Sitting with Fuentes, Carlson took a different tack, arguing that Christian Zionists like Trump official Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz have a brain virus, and accusing them of Christian heresy. Fuentes thanked Roberts for his courage in defending Tucker against the Israel First woke right. I don't know that I would describe Nick Fuentes as Israel First. Maybe. What I mean by Israel First is we had a guy, and I'll explain why. We had a guy in the show on Timcast IRL, and one of our callers from the Timcast Discord asked about the fentanyl crisis. Within 30 seconds, the dude was talking about Israel, and I'm like, my brother, we are talking about the fentanyl crisis. How did you get to Israel? We had I used to have I don't know, there wasn't a Discord server. What did we have? I can't remember. It might have been Discord. But I had, years ago, I had a member server, And we shut it down and we restarted a different one. And we now have the Timcast Discord server. It's got rules. And the problem that I faced as an individual running this was every time I would go into the Discord, there'd be people there just screaming about Israel like psychopaths. And we had to ban them. And I would repeatedly say, guys, you are allowed to criticize Israel, but this is a news commentary server where we talk about the issues of the day. If I come in and I see the same people talking about Israel, you're getting banned. And they'd be like, Tim won't let us criticize Israel. Here, I'll give you an example of what I was talking about. This is not a joke. One specific example was, and this is 2018 or whatever, I opened up the Discord, and I'm like, hey guys, what do you think's happening in the news today? And there's, a back and forth going on, and someone said something like, Chicago pizza is better than New York pizza. And then I'm laughing, being like, well, gotta hand it to him there. And I don't mean deep dish, that's tourist pizza. We mean the Chicago Tavern style square cut with that firm crust. I kid you not, here's what happens. Someone goes, have you ever tried any pizzas outside of Chicago or New York? Because you can get good pizza anywhere, to be honest. And then someone else said, oh yeah, right, try getting pizza in Detroit, the Detroit pizza and blah, blah, blah. And then someone says, what about pizza outside the United States? This dude, this one guy, he goes, what about pizza outside the U.S.? Have you been to any other countries? And then someone says something like, I've had pizza in Italy, right? But it's not the same. It's like focaccia bread. And then this guy says, I once had pizza in Israel, and it was pretty good. And the other guy goes, oh yeah, wow, Israeli pizza, what was that like? And then he says, yeah, it was basically this. The thing about how Israel operates, and I was like, bro, I'm banned. Get out. This is what was happening. I would say, hey guys, there's big news. Trump is being accused, Russiagate. And then somebody would be like, man, these people going after Trump are crazy. They're accusing him of being a traitor. And then another guy would be like, there are a lot of traitors in this country because Israel. And I'd be like, stop. We are talking about Russiagate. And this is what they would do. For this reason, I nuked the whole Discord. And there wasn't a lot of people in it. But the issue was basically that we had been infiltrated by these Israel First people. That no matter what news subject you'd bring up, they would segue into Israel. And I'd be like, what is going on? And it seemed like a coordinated attack. Like they were trying desperately to get people to hate Israel, despite the fact that Israel was not the subject at hand in the mainstream news cycle affecting Donald Trump. It is retardation. Now, I do think a lot of it's retardation. I think a lot of it is paid propagandists from other countries and obsessive individuals in the United States. It's a combination of factors. But when you have someone go, hey, how was your day? My day was pretty good. I don't mind the weather. It's been sunny out. Oh, yeah, I can't stand the rain, man. When I was in Israel, it was raining all the time. Oh, Israel, don't get me started. The weather there. Yeah, well, it's not made easier by how the government works there, because when it comes to the rain, they're not going to, oh, I'll tell you this. Yeah, but the government's got other problems. I mean, have you seen what, and you're like, what? This is the Israel derangement syndrome. When we had this journalist on the show, someone said, oh, what's going on with the fentanyl crisis? And he goes, well, the fentanyl crisis is a big deal because there's people who are, prescribed these drugs, and then they get addicted to them. Next thing you know, they're trying to buy it off the street. When they can't get it from their doctors anymore and they're still addicted, they need to, otherwise they have withdrawals. So they go on the street and they start buying drugs. But the cops, of course, are tracking and surveilling these guys who are selling it. So these innocent people who have been made addicts, all of a sudden now, they are buying from these dealers, and the dealers are being surveilled by this tech that is being used by all these police departments and sent up by the federal government to go after these people. And it's built and it's funded by these pro-Israel forces that ends up putting Americans in jail. And see, what happens with Israel technology is they're doing all the surveillance tech, and you've got these families in Israel, what they're building it for in the war. Now, we got Iran, and I'm like, stop, what? This is what they do. Now, I'll tell you this. We invited Nick on the show, and I don't think Nick does that. I've not seen a lot of his content, to be fair. But when people started claiming Israel killed Charlie Kirk, then Nick actually had a viral clip where he was like, can we stop with this? Like, are you kidding me? He's like, he called it conspiratard BS. And that's what I'm talking about. That within like 12 hours, Ian Carroll was like, Israel did it. And I'm like, oh my God. That's derangement syndrome, okay? That's Israel derangement syndrome. You can criticize Israel. You're allowed to believe Israel and Mossad are doing crazy things and try and manipulate and subvert the U.S. government. That's always been allowed. But when you segue every conversation so you can just whack off on camera to how you hate Israel, holy crap, you've got a mental problem. And then what happens when I say this, they go, Tim Sig, you can't criticize Israel. You are retards. You are all retarded. All of you. I have many friends who hate Israel, criticize it, believe its government has untoward influence in the United States. That was always allowed. But these people who have Israel first derangement syndrome, oh, Lord have mercy. And look, I'll say this too. The people who are hyper obsessed with being allies with Israel and Israel can do no wrong and all that stuff, yeah, I'm right there with you. Man, are they cringe. And you know, I tell people this who are very pro-Israel, I'm like, guys, y'all sound like retards. Okay, when you go online and like, you're spam blasting how great Israel is. You know, an example would be, I don't want to call anybody out specifically, but somebody made it's like a Tucker Carlson, this is why I'm doing a video on it. Someone made a comment about Tucker Carlson, and then these high-profile personalities quote tweet it with all caps, like attacking them, and I'm like, holy crap, dude, chill out. Like the pro-Israel PR is just miserably bad. But then I'm also going to add this too. When we announced Nick was coming on the show and his conservatives started attacking us, these pro-Israel people, they're like very much, it's the same people, they're very much DeSantis people. And they behave in very much the exact same way. And it's like, oh, geez. I'm not interested in your weird emotional psycho problems. I'm not interested. So there you have it. I'm Israel ambivalent, you know. I don't care if it's China lobbying the U.S. government, Israel, Ukraine, or whatever. I think America first and secure our borders and our interests, and we should stop being beholden to these foreign countries. Whatever, I'll leave it there. That was fun. Stay tuned, more to come. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all in the next segment.
If you want to see it all, you need a car that can go the distance. The Subaru Forester Hybrid. 581 miles per tank. Love goes the extra mile. The Subaru Forester Hybrid in Crosstrek Hybrid, part of our growing family of Subaru hybrid vehicles.
The day the universe activated something. When Mars saw what Earth could not, on July 1st, 2025, something impossible appeared in our telescopes. A visitor from beyond our solar system.
Today you've carved another foot in a long climb to liberty.
Why they hate Tolkien? There's a lot of reasons. A lot of people are mad at this. Yep. I think they're all real. Yep, I can see chat. Yep, chat loves it. They know they're real.
Never before has any voice uttered the words of that tongue here in Imladris.
Do not ask your pardon, Master Elrond, for the black speech of Mordor may yet be heard in every corner of the West.
Nerdrotic.com.
Igavanian, you over 1 million men and women of the West and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. Not a year goes by without some hack writer from the Access Media or hackademic.
Bro.
Another step towards total eradication.
Oh, God.
Hack writer from the Access
Are you kidding me? This is pretty good.
Media or hackademic attacking our beloved Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. And this year is no different from the Telegraph. Students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy. That's
why is it that the evil characters are being associated with Africans? Like, I feel like that's a bit of a stretch, right? What the hell is that from?
AAA to you and me. Generally, academics and activists, and quite frankly, I don't know the difference between the two, so we'll just call them...
How do you watch the Uruk-hai and the orcs and be like, oh, I know who this reminds me of. They're the ones that are the racists. How do you do that? You gotta be out of your fucking mind.
People who don't like to have fun and people who are no fun to be around hate Lord of the Rings. And the attacks on Tolkien go back to the times when he was alive. But in recent times, it was made demonstrably worse by Amazon. You know, the company that started out selling books?
Yeah.
When its owner, Jeff Bezos, decided he wanted to make his own Game of Thrones and bought Lord of the Rings, which is funny because right now, Game of Thrones, along with Harry Potter, DC Comics, and the core part of Lord of the Rings that Jeff Bezos actually wants is potentially for sale.
Wow.
Anyway, Jeff Bezos is the Rings of Power, you know, the billion-dollar disaster and failure that's basically a vanity project right now, gave the activists absolutely...
I'm surprised that they're still making it.
Everything they wanted. Unfortunately, there weren't enough of them to watch, but it did stir the conversation back up again. 5 years ago, I made a video called They Are Coming for Lord of the Rings, and it was a simple warning that the same thing we've seen happen to Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who was going to happen to the Professor's secondary world because the activists...
Well, the reason why is because they want to get inside of these pieces of media and then change them and reshape them to make them reinforce the way they see the world. That's the reason why all of this media keeps getting changed. And it gets changed in like fundamental ways because these people want it to mean fundamentally different things. That's the reason why.
I've been circling this mythology for a long time, and once they sunk their teeth into it with the help of their Hollywood corporate overlords, if anyone didn't like it, well, they were the problem. Particularly the readers of Tolkien who wanted to see the Professor's work adapted authentically. And in their infinite wisdom, the creators of the show decided to make the fans of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, and all the works of Professor Tolkien the enemy. Responding to the backlash they absolutely knew they were going to get, Rings of Power producer and Bad Reboot reject Lindsay Weber famously said, "It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like."
But it's not the world. See, like, in my opinion, as soon as I hear something like that, I immediately assume that the media is going to be garbage. Because you, at this point, have now put your, like, viewpoints and your, like, social ideology, you have decided to elevate that above the source material. And what I think that really shows is it's a profound lack of it's a profound disrespect of the source material. You don't really care about making it authentic. You don't care about doing it the right way. You care about making it in line with what your viewpoints are. You see what I'm saying? So anytime that you see anything, this is my opinion, anytime that you see any even slight amount of like something that you could consider DEI in something, you should automatically assume that it's going to be garbage. Because a lot of the things like that that are added in for a DEI reason, fundamentally what that tells you is that they don't actually respect the source material enough to adapt it properly. Now, I'm not saying every single thing that's had a DEI thing in it is bad, but I think the correlation's pretty fucking strong.
Go back to the book, go back to the book, go back to the book.
Yep.
Completely ignoring the fact that Amazon paid $250 million to get access to a built-in audience that really enjoyed a world meticulously built by J.R.R. Tolkien and what he thought it actually looked like. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay also responding to the backlash called the fans patently evil. Two Dwarf of Color...
The fans are patently evil? Well, wait a minute. I don't understand this. So the orcs aren't evil, but the fans are? What the fuck happened? It's insane. Yes, really? I don't even know what to say.
Evil to Dwarf of Color actress Sophia Numvetti stating that her role and the Rings of Power are a necessary redress of balance in Tolkien.
Everyone was cast because they were the absolute best person for the role, and to be part of a redress of balance within this world is an
I don't
honor.
think that they understand. Like, nobody that wanted to watch Lord of the Rings, that actually was a fan of the show, wanted to have it recast for racial reasons, for like current day racial reasons. Nobody was asking for this. Nobody wanted this. Nobody needed this. I don't know like where they get this idea that this is something that the people wanted. That nobody wanted this at all. Like, nobody was asking for this. Do you think you should have the same opinion if Ryan Gosling was cast as some Nubian king? I don't know. I mean, I think that in general, if you're doing a race swap for a character, you're probably doing it for a reason that doesn't have to do with the quality of the character or the quality of the actress. Like, for example, if you had like a really good actress or a really good actor race swapping a character, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Like, I think that like for The Witcher, for example, they have Lawrence Fishburne playing Regis, who is like one of the vampires in Witcher 3. And I don't really care about that. That's fine because he's a really good actor. But in terms of like just bringing on random people just to play this role, I think that's the issue.
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app and $9.99 a month for a music app and $12.99 for a fitness app and more money for a bunch of other apps, that really adds up. So why not get YouTube Premium for just $13.99? It's like having all those and the entire world of YouTube uninterrupted. Your wallet will thank you, if wallets could talk. YouTube Premium. Try 1 month free.
And the rest is history, and by all accounts, the subversive work that is the Rings of Power should have been canceled, but the only reason it's still around is so Jeff Bezos won't be embarrassed. I would argue continuing to make it is more embarrassing. And of course, there's all the Access Media articles and academic research, from racially stereotyping in the works of Tolkien to a new Lord of the Rings prequel quietly confronts an uncomfortable legacy. How Amazon's The Rings of Power prequel grapples with the deeply ingrained ideas of racial difference and racial determinism in J.R.R. Tolkien's world.
These people are professional problem havers. That's all they do, is they find problems with things, they complain about shit, they get mad about it, and the worst part is that the world is supposed to pretend like they care. It's insane.
The infamous
Dear Tolkien fans, black people exist? Okay.
Tolkien fans, black people exist. And who can forget this book published in 2022, Tolkien, Race and Racism in Middle-earth by Robert Stewart? Well, apparently everybody forgot.
This is the problem that these people have, and this is the reason why I think so many people are like, I think, becoming more racist, is because they've wanted to put these viewpoints and these values in every single aspect of life. Every single thing. They want to like go back and retroactively apply their current worldview to media that was like, you know, 50 or 100 years old, right? Like, that's the issue. It's that like you can't do that, and you can't force everybody to think the way that you want and then expect there's not going to be a huge pushback.
About it, considering it only has 3 reviews on Amazon and it's sitting at a 2.6 and it costs $93.43.
Well, this is what I think is kind of funny about it, is that the entire this entire apparatus of people that are bringing up these topics, it's actually like nobody. Like, nobody actually cares about this stuff at all. It's just artificially astroturfed in order for people to think that this is a problem. But average people don't care about this, and they never did.
Considering it only has 3 reviews on Amazon and it's sitting at a 2.6 and it costs $93.43. Or going back to 2002 from The Guardian, Race and Race. What with the dark skin, broad faces, and dreadlocks, it's a wonder Tolkien didn't give his baddies a natural sense of rhythm, says John Yett, examining Middle-earth suspect racial undertones, where he's
suspect racial undertones, bro. And I think the problem is that a lot of people don't really know how to deal with this. The way that you deal with this is you just tell them to shut the fuck up and that you don't care. That's the way you deal with it. And the moment that you capitulate to these people, because you have to understand that these people are not your target audience. They don't care about your media. They don't care about whether it does well or not. They don't care about whether it's successful. They don't care about whether it's true to form to like what the original text is. The only thing that they care about is that it is, you know, congruent with what their worldview is. And because of that, you should never listen to them because they don't actually care about the product. They only care about what the product does for them.
States multiple paragraphs down, perhaps I better come out and say it. The Lord of the Rings is racist. So this is nothing new under the two lamps, the two trees, or the Son of Arda.
Yes.
But this one takes it a step further because it's an actual course at the University of Nottingham.
Wow.
And that course comes off as an exploration of the actions of Robin Hood from the perspective of the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Call off Christmas.
Once again from the Telegram, and we got to give them a little credit here on this headline. Students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy.
The first thing that I think of whenever I see Sauron is like, an African. I guess Tolkien must be racist.
A university is teaching students that J.R.R. Tolkien demonizes people of color in the Lord of the Rings books. A history module called Decolonizing Tolkien and Others taught at the...
Anytime that I see the word colonize used anywhere, basically, I just automatically assume that the person is retarded. I do. I pretty much instantly assume that. Like, if you're complaining about colonizing, you're decolonizing, you're even, it's like, it's one of those retard words. Now, this is not a 100% thing, right? Sometimes people use the term and it makes sense, but it's very rarely the case.
University of Nottingham uses a text that says orcs and other dark-skinned characters in the trilogy are the victims of ethnic chauvinism.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Dr. Oneka Nubia, a historian and writer who leads the module, who's made plenty of appearances on the BBC, and has put forth the narrative that medieval England had towns and cities as diverse as modern London, which is absurd, argues that Eastern races in the fictional realm of Middle-earth are depicted as evil, while fairer-skinned peoples of the West are shown as virtuous. I mean,
man, when you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. This is what people like that do. Their entire career is built around trying to identify these things and getting upset about them. It really is insane. Someone's trying to create problems. Well, yeah, that's because nobody wants to tell this guy that he's wrong, and so they just let it happen.
Except for all the fairer-skinned peoples who weren't so virtuous, like dwarves who were not evil but could be famous assholes.
They're greedy, they're assholes, they're selfish.
Like the petty dwarf men who betrayed Túrin, or the dwarves that killed Thingol. And yes, despite what Amazon and their paid shills will say about dwarves, generally they're considered fair yet ruddy. And as far as elves are concerned,
they're more neutral. They're not like just only good.
There's Feanor, whose actions led to the burning of the ships, and the kinslaying, which was the first time elves killed other elves. The sons of Feanor, who killed a lot of elves, or Maeglin, who betrayed Gondolin to Morgoth. Then there's the men of the West. Where do I even start? Maybe with the Númenóreans, who were sacrificing humans to Morgoth. The black Númenóreans, and no, they weren't black. And they were, deep in the past, oppressive rulers of realms like Umbar and Harad. Put simply,
I think that a lot of these people are just like really dumb, and the only way that they can understand conflicts is if they look at it through modern lenses. And that's the reason why they have these problems and why they keep seeing these issues, is that they're basically people that, you know, took AP English in 12th grade and learned to try to see everything as a metaphor for something else. And in my opinion, I think it's just such a stupid way of looking at things, number one. Number two, I think it's also something that makes stupid people feel smart. So you have a lot of people out there that are doing it. That's it. They hate everything men love. Well, yeah, I guess so, right? Everything somehow has to relate to the real world. Yes, exactly.
Wasn't black and white. There was a lot of moral complexity to Tolkien's works, and not every fair-skinned character was virtuous. And that's just scratching the surface. Now, obviously, I'm no Tolkien scholar.
I mean, also Sauron appeared as a fair-skinned character many times as an elf. Like, anybody that knows anything about the source material knows this is retarded. We all know this is retarded, but like, you know, again, this is just what happens.
Or expert, I'm just a fan, but imagine if a real scholar or even a hardcore lorehead took this clown's course. It'd be hilarious. In reference to decolonizing Tolkien in academia, decolonizing usually means re-examining or moving away
it's just basically anti-white, anti-Western viewpoints, basically, or deconstructing you know, why white people or Western culture is a problem in something. That's what decolonizing means. 99% of the time.
From white Western
racism.
viewpoints.
Yeah,
So let me get this straight, Dr. Onyeka Nubia. You want to move away from...
It's just a, it's an academic term for racism.
You were bound by the chains of duty. Until true love turned the whole...
From the white Western viewpoint of Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, an Englishman who wanted to write a mythology for England from his English viewpoint. I mean, by all means, move away from it. But why would you want to waste your time doing that? Well, because it's not about re-examining or decolonizing. It's about deconstructing, to state the obvious, because somehow the academics got it in their brains that you can fight discrimination with discrimination. But it doesn't end there. In the module's core text, Dr. Onyeka writes that maligned peoples include Easterlings, Southrons, and men from Hadad. The trilogy also features the dark-skinned orcs, evil creatures that do the bidding of Sauron, known as the Dark Lord. Now, the article says...
That's true. Yeah, they do.
The trilogy, and I certainly hope you're not talking about the Peter Jackson films as much as they are the greatest trilogy ever made, they are not the most accurate adaptation of the professor's work. So are you just focusing on the Lord of the Rings books, leaving out The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, The Children of Hurin, The Fall of Gondolin, The Lost Tales, etc.? Yes, armies of Easterlings and Hadad fought for Sauron, and yes, their complexions matched the regions they lived in because Tolkien accounted for that. You know who also fought for Sauron? The aforementioned fair race of the Númenóreans, some of whom became the Nazgûl. But as far as orcs are concerned, they're creatures who are humanoid, but not human, with mostly sallow skin, so I don't care what background.
Yeah, they have like green and like, you know, like weird ass skin. Like, what do you mean? It's not a fucking, it's not the same thing at all. Tolkien's personal writings show him to be against apartheid and definitely not racist. I mean, again, I think that just the implication of this is ridiculous.
You're from. If you see them as black people, you told on yourself. The orcs / goblins were created by Morgoth / Melkor as a mockery of the elves, who were created along with everything else by the one true god Eru Ilúvatar, who are described by J.R.R. Tolkien in the often cited for multiple reasons Letter 210, a letter discussing a film treatment to Forrest J. Ackerman. They are or were squat, broad, flat-nosed, sallow-skinned with wide mouths and slant eyes. In fact, degraded and repulsive versions of the two Europeans' least lovely Mongol types. Now, the important bit there before he says Mongols is two Europeans, that is...
The permanently offended people are projecting their own prejudices into materials that don't have anything to do with it. Well, they're also just trying to force their ideology into every form of popular media. It's like, I think a really good example of it is, do you remember like a couple of days ago whenever the Homeland Security account was tweeting out Halo memes about, you know, destroying the flood, and then it said join ICE? Well, that's what I think a lot of conservative people have had to deal with, listening to every single piece of media be a metaphor for why capitalism is bad, why men are stupid, or why Western culture is wrong. And so, like, now you can see how annoying it is. Now you can see why people didn't like it. Reddit did not like that? Yeah, of course. And it's because they're not doing it. Straight up racist? Nah, it's not racist. What's racist about it? Nothing.
In acknowledging that that wasn't probably the nicest thing. So if anybody has a beef, it's the Asians. But if we're going to be judging things from history and we're going to say Mongol, that would be from Mongolia. Say Genghis Khan, which means about 0.5% of the male population of planet Earth could be offended by that remark.
Problem with it is,
There's a lot of them.
It's a big murderer.
He was quite
I
murderous,
suppose he was a bit
wasn't he?
murderous. He did 34 million. There's another problem as well.
That's a lot of people.
Rapey.
A remark made in 1958. Many will make that the underlying thesis of Tolkien and all of his works being racist. But that is the deliberately disingenuous argument you will get from modern academics, particularly when it comes to Tolkien. Judging a man's perspective from the early to mid 20th century, that was
this year. They tried this argument on Dungeons and Dragons and orcs and now have made them Mexican in new books. No lie. There's no way that orcs are Mexicans now. I'm sorry. I will not believe that until I see it. No.
Completely acceptable, by the way, on modern day standards and having to dig to find something while completely ignoring all the times that J.R.R. Tolkien said he was against things like racial doctrine and those national socialists.
So this is just like him literally saying, I have a hatred of apartheid in my bones, and most of all, I detest the segregation or separation of language and literature. I do not care of which of them you think white. Okay, so then he's obviously not a racist. Okay, so then that's the end of it. All right, well, okay, great. Well, that was easy.
But the professor shouldn't feel alone because Dr. Onyeka Nubia also went after C.S. Lewis, Milton, and Shakespeare.
Yeah, you're complaining. This is the thing. People that have problems are problems. If you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And this is what it is. This is your job. Your job is to go around and look and find things to complain about and pretend that they're racist. That's what you do. That's why you're on TV. That's why people pretend to care about what you're saying. That is your entire existence. So, big surprise, you found it with Lord of the Rings too. Because that's all you're supposed to do.
And this is just the latest salvo against the good professor from the disingenuous and evil academics. But this reminds me of the worst case of betrayal, the Tolkien Society. Harkening back to their seminar in 2021, coincidentally, a year before The Rings of Power came out. So I'm sure this was totally a coincidence that they had seminars like this. Gondor in Transition, a brief introduction to transgender reality.
A woman was depositing a check at the bank, but when it fell into a storm drain, the frost banker went in and got it? Unreal. Frost is so money.
Whoo, boy. Wow. Wow.
In The Lord of the Rings. Not sure how they managed to get a 30-minute seminar out of something that wasn't a reality anywhere within the works of the devout Catholic professor.
What is this new devilry?
And yes, these are real from the real Tolkien Society, an educational charity and literary society devoted to the study and promotion of the life and works of the author.
The Tolkien Society is talking about transgenderism in Lord of the Rings? What the fuck is wrong with them?
In 1969.
Oh my god.
But wait! There's more!
The Problem of Pain, portraying physical disability in the fantasy of J.R.R. Tolkien.
What?
The Invisible Other, Tolkien's Dwarf Women, and the Feminine Lack.
Oh my god. Oh god. This is amazing.
Projecting Indian myths, culture, and history onto Tolkien's worlds. The loss of indigeneity, identity, and anti-racism. We're atheists, agnostics, and animists.
We're atheists, agnostics, and animists. Oh my. Comments are turned off. Gentlemen, I haven't said it for a while, so I want to say it again. We have two problems in our culture and our society, and all of our problems stem from two groups of people. The first group of people that cause all of our problems primarily are Karens. Karens cause all of our problems through selective empathy, performative empathy, narcissistic empathy, basically everything except for actual empathy, and also just being fucking delusional and stupid. And there is that, and having a chip on your shoulder because something bad happened in your childhood, and now the entire world has to suffer for it. The second group is incels. Incels also cause a lot of problems in our society. Many of them are mass shooters. They go out on rampages. They're violent. And they are also, you could say, created by Karens in a lot of cases. This basically encapsulates, I'd say, at least 90%, probably 95 or 99% of all of the problems in our entire culture are derived from just simply that two groups of people. That's it. And if we stopped listening to those two groups of people, we would be living in a paradise. We'd have flying cars. Nothing would be locked up in CVS. You could just simply go inside of a store. You wouldn't need them to check your receipt as you leave. Everything, you could leave your car unlocked. We would probably have computers that were faster. Everything would just be better. Everything would be better.
Oh my.
Yeah, we could tell racist jokes and nobody would get mad. We can just keep going on and on and on and on. But you're right about not about incel. The problem are the simps. Well, incels become simps and simps become incels, right? It's kind of like a like what's that fucking paradox where energy becomes matter? I forgot which one that is. But yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's like with incels and simps.
This one, something mighty queer, destabilizing cis-hetero heteronormativity in the works of Tolkien.
What?
This might be my favorite. Pardoning Saruman, the queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. For those of you who may or may not know.
Wait, what? Pardoning Saruman? Whoa, wait, I was reading chat. Let me listen to this again.
Tolkien.
What?
This might be my favorite. Pardoning Saruman, the queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. For those of you who may or may not.
Saruman's gay? Tolkien comments about difference in applicability and allegory. The paper is similarly character Manwë. That's the Valar that sent what do you call it? Gandalf into Middle Earth. Manwë is an archetype of the rightful and lawful leader. For this manner, we will compare him to Zango, the Orixia from African Brazilian region, Ubanda. Wait, what? What the fuck are you talking about? Even though it's so this doesn't have anything to do with Saruman.
Come on. The queer in Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. For those of you who may or may not know from the books, Saruman the White later identifies himself as Saruman of Many Colors, which could be interpreted.
No way. Saruman of Many Colors. They think it's the rainbow flag. No fuck. Actually, you know what? That's exactly why. For sure, bro. That's so retarded. I know that's the reason. That's super fucking retarded. Absolutely. Oh my god.
It is wearing a rainbow flag.
Ha! Gay!
And when he reveals himself, Gandalf's response pretty much sums up everything happening here.
For I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman of Many Colors.
I like white better.
White. It serves as a beginning. White cloth can be dyed, the white page can be overwritten, and the white light can be broken.
In which case it is no longer white. And he that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom.
Let's not forget back.
Isn't it crazy whenever you listen to that dialogue and then you compare it to the slop that we get nowadays? Isn't it just like, bro, like, it's just bars, like, exactly.
In February of 2023, The Spectator reported that a unit within Prevent, the UK Home Office's counter-extremism program, had drawn up several lists of dangerous books. It claimed that
dude, this is a Karen organization. Like, y'all, what y'all need to do is go in and just take all of these people and then just fire them. Just fire every single one of them. They ain't doing nothing. They're not helping anybody. They're not doing anything good. They're just wasting your fucking money being retarded. Just get rid of them. Get them out.
Prompt or indict support for the far right or horror of centrist horrors.
Yeah, that's a deep state.
Among the specific works mentioned were novels by titans of English literature,
Get a
including
submarine.
George Orwell,
Gotta go get
Joseph Conrad,
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis, and J.R.R. Tolkien.
I find it, actually, I feel like the biggest self-report here is that the list of dangerous books, George Orwell is on the list of dangerous books. Dangerous to who, exactly? Yeah, that's the real self-report. J.R.R. Tolkien is not that much. It's George Orwell that I think is the real self-report here.
So I'd like to remind everyone who tries to take down this English legend, prolific author, and all-around good human being that the rest of the world does not agree with you, including you, Dr. Onyeka Nubia. Considering Lord of the Rings has been translated into 57 different languages and has at least 87 translations, it's sold over 150 million copies, making it the third or fourth best-selling book of all time. And if you combine it with The Hobbit, that's 250 million copies.
Wow.
Then there's all the other books and media, and of course the films, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, which have a combined worldwide gross of 5.875 million without adjusting for inflation. Based on that,
I do feel like Lord of the Rings is probably one of the core, like, in terms of like Western media, it's pretty much one of the main pillars. That's it. It's pretty much the big one. Like, you've got that, you've got maybe now for a lot of people, younger people, it's Harry Potter also. Maybe, I don't know, a couple of other things, but mainly Lord of the Rings.
Data alone, which was
Star
pretty easy
Wars,
to look up, it appears that despite what some producers at Amazon and angry academics think, any detractors of the professor and his works are in the minuscule minority. But they're not going to stop, and they tell them...
This is the issue that happens, is that these people put themselves in positions of power, and then they try to astroturf and manipulate public perception into believing that what they think is actually like a commonly held viewpoint. And so they create this perception of consensus by trying to portray their viewpoints alongside the traditional viewpoints. But the reality is that almost nobody believes this stupid, retarded bullshit. Nobody actually believes this. That's why nobody's buying the books. That's why the shows that have this stuff involved fail. That's why it happens. And because the only place where it can succeed is a place where it is completely protected from anything else that could potentially put it at risk. It cannot survive in a free marketplace of ideas.
There's more to love with YouTube Music Premium. Listen to ad-free songs and discover new podcasts anytime.
Themselves, because when we have a course at the University of Nottingham from the professor's home country called Decolonizing Tolkien, again, decolonizing.
I don't have a problem with the course, if you want me to be honest. I think it's fine. If you want to write and do a course about this, it's totally okay. I think, you know, it's, again, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, etc. I think maybe you could, you know, ask some questions about, like, you know, should tax dollars be going towards this, etc. But I think that, you know, people should be able to believe and teach courses and even stupid stuff, right? But this is definitely stupid.
Academia usually means re-examining or moving away from white Western viewpoints. This isn't a scholarly study or exploration, or even...
It's not moving away from white Western viewpoints, because there's nothing that's inherently white or Western about a viewpoint. There's only something that makes sense and doesn't make sense. And by categorizing things like that, what you're doing is you're just basically... You're just giving people a justification to be racist. Like, that's it. It's literally that simple.
a re-examination. What it
yes,
is
we're gonna look at the Mexican
is
orcs.
colonizing
We will.
Tolkien, because students of the course in Nottingham will also learn to repopulate the canon of British myth and legend. To state
See, that's the problem, is that they want to change things. Like, I'm fine if you don't like an old story because you think it's racist or something like that. That's fine. But, like, if you don't, if that's the case, make your own.
The obvious, this isn't about adding to something or building something new.
Yes.
It's about destroying something. Best summed up by the Culture Explorer on X, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Forget education, this is cultural demolition. The goal isn't to re-examine the past, it's to poison it, to strip stories of their meaning until they become something you're ashamed to love.
My God.
First, they redefine the words. Then they rewrite the history, and finally, they tell you what you're allowed to believe.
Jesus Christ, yes!
This isn't a debate about orcs, it's a war over who owns your culture. And
exactly. Fucking exactly.
Key to destroying a culture is problematizing its past. And Lord of the Rings is just one more monument to tear down. And why do they hate Tolkien? Well, I don't think I'm breaking any news here. It's his conservative values. He was a devout Catholic, a proud...
he's a conservative Catholic white man. Yeah, big surprise. They don't like people like that. You know why? It's because they're racist. That's the reason why. It's that simple.
Englishman, an anti-modernist, and he had a deep distrust of large-scale government. Values that are antithetical to the ideology of the modern activist and academic. And the timelessness and popularity of this story that will outlast them all serves as a constant reminder that nobody likes their ideas and nobody thinks they're any fun. But Tolkien's...
And that's what I think is very interesting about it, is that there's so much emphasis placed on placating and pacifying and keeping these people happy, when the reality is that they represent almost no one. Like, nobody likes these people. Very few people even subscribe to these ideas. But for whatever reason, everybody has to listen and pretend like this is some sort of valid viewpoint.
Works and the values they represent is exactly the reason the vast majority of people, including this guy who is neither Catholic or English, love him.
Nerderotic.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
No, I completely agree with him. I do. I do. I think it's just very simply people that are trying to delete what you're saying. Confused why the left wants so much government? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, I told you Karens push it, simps go along with it. Yeah, I mean, I think that simps is incels also. Well, I mean, I think that also, like, those are two different problems, right? And at a certain point, I'll probably go and talk about that. But there is the video right there. Skip the outro. I think that was the outro, right? And so, yeah, make sure to give it a like. Nerdrotic, I've watched a lot of his videos. And I think that, yes, they do hate Tolkien because of what it represents. And I think they hate it for a number of reasons. They don't like the fact that it's not super racially diverse. They don't like the fact that it talks about, or it doesn't use an overt you know, like sort of like, you know, modern storytelling. I think that in general, a lot of people, and this is something that I've noticed, is that a lot of people have a problem understanding, you know, and like coming to terms with the fact that like certain things are just, you know, naturally good and evil, right? Like people like to have shades of gray in things because I don't know, I guess maybe it scares them or it's weird to them that maybe certain things are just good and other things are just bad. And I don't really know why that is. I'm not sure why that is. I have to think about it more. But yeah, 50 of them? Oh, 50 what? I don't know. But anyway, so yes, and this is the image that somebody sent me. Second illustration that I made for the revised PHB, the species entry for orcs. So whenever somebody said they made orcs Mexicans, oh my fucking God. That is incredible. It's like, this is the kind of stuff, guys. Like, you don't see something like this every day. They literally made orcs Mexicans. Are you kidding me? It's that bad? I know. These people are just awful. They are awful. Oh my God. Yes, and Dark Woke. I don't think this is, I think it's just retarded. And yeah. It's Omega. Well, fucking Dawn Trail. What? Karens want government because they know they aren't on the populist side. Yeah, yeah. They need government to enforce their worldviews because people won't accept them on their own. I mean, some of the dude. Look at some of this, guys. I mean, this sure is a lot, huh? I don't know about this.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube.